Hey y'all, it's your girl Toyia T, and we're wishing you a happy new year. This is our first episode of the year. Super excited. It's our Health as Wealth episode, and it's sponsored by FC Cincinnati and CET, a PBS station here in Cincinnati, the station for the arts. So, with that, I want to get right into our guests. We have plant-based tequila, who's a nutritionist. She's going to tell us everything plant-based. We also have Dr. Latoya Smith here with us, and I'm really excited to hear from her to learn more about how we can advocate for our own health. So, with that, I'll let them do a brief introduction. Come on in, lady.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Toya. Hi, Latoya.
Hello, hi. I'm so happy to have you guys on the show. We're going to have girl power tonight to talk
Yeah,
about how we can advocate for our own health because I think this subject really came near and dear for me because I had my own like personal health scare, and my iron was really low, and I didn't know anything about a hemoglobin, right? So I go to the doctor because my insurance is going to change, and I literally meet with the doctor to do just like a physical, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna pull all your numbers and then I'll give you a call tomorrow to kind of let you know where everything is. And he calls me the next morning and he's like, I need you to go get an iron infusion today, like this
wow.
morning. So, with that, I'm going to have you guys introduce yourself. Just do a brief introduction and we'll jump right in.
Okay, I can go first. So, hey, you guys, I'm plant-based tequila. I'm a holistic health and wellness activist and a plant-based transition coach slash nutritionist. I started my journey with being plant-based probably about almost no, actually almost 8 years ago. I'm sorry, 7 years have already passed. And my journey just started kind of similar to Toya's, where I kind of had my own health challenges kind of show up. And it kind of just propelled me to go on this journey. And throughout the years, I just continued to learn and progress and eventually just realized that this was a passion and a purpose for me. And ever since, I've just been on this journey helping other people, helping them inspire them and empower them to make shifts and changes in their diet as I continue on my journey of health and wellness as well.
Well, that's awesome. We're glad to have you tonight, and we're going to really lean on you to get some resources for
Thank you.
other plant-based folks, or folks that just want to add some live foods and fruits and
Yeah,
vegetables into their diet.
yes.
Okay, so we're glad to have you. We'd like to do an introduction, Dr. Smith.
Yeah, my name is Dr. Latoya Smith. I did most of my med school and training in the Cincinnati area. One of my biggest things is teaching people how to be an advocate, especially patients can have difficulties navigating the complicated healthcare system. Even people, I have personal stories within my family, and so I'm just excited to be here. Actually, excited to learn about some more and additional about diet and nutrition, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you. And just be yourselves. It's a conversation. Don't feel like there's any right or wrong. It's just a matter of us just talking through it. And hopefully somebody will take something away and learn from our conversation. So the first question that I have is, have you experienced health issues that caused you to change your diet? Akila, you kind of leaned into this in your introduction. But what happened, and did you add something? Did you take something away as a result of that? Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yes. So my journey, it started probably around my sophomore year of college. So this is probably around 2009-ish, 2010. Everything was good. And then it just felt like all of a sudden, I just looked up. I was 20 pounds heavier. I was dealing with chronic constipation where I was literally only having like one bowel movement a week, you guys. I was totally dependent on laxatives just to go to the bathroom. It was really, really bad. With that came constant bloating and gassing, which was extremely embarrassing to be around people because it wasn't, just those little silent, ain't nobody gonna hear it or smell it. It was like deadly because I was
Right.
so backed up. I was having a lot of reproductive issues, and we're all women here. So I'm going to advocate for our women tonight because a lot of women deal with this too, and they're afraid to talk about it. But I had recurring yeast infections, recurring BV back to back to back to back to back. And I couldn't figure out what was causing it. I didn't realize that my diet could have played a role in it, that stress could play a role in it. And then I was a college student. I was working 2 jobs. I had a lot going on, a lot on my plate. And I had reached this point where I was going to my doctors and they just wanted to keep pushing medicine at me, but never really wanted to help me tackle the root of the issue. And
Right.
so I have reached just say I reached my bottom place where I was crying myself to sleep at night because I was so uncomfortable in my body. Y'all know what it feels. If you've ever had a yeast infection and you know how uncomfortable that can get, and you have to constantly keep dealing with this, and you don't know how to find relief. I was at my wit's end. I wanted to just take my vagina and just throw it in the garbage. I didn't want it anymore. I didn't want to deal with it.
Right.
So what I did is I started, and I know that everybody does this, but I went to YouTube University. I was on Google and I was just Googling everything that I was dealing with, all of my symptoms. And I started looking at people's stories who were also suffering. And it allowed me to kind of get some insight on what could potentially be causing it and what are some avenues that I could take to help me. And then from there, I turned into Inspector Gadget. I started putting together this little wellness plan for myself. Now, mind you, my knowledge about this stuff was very limited, but I was willing, like if I had to eat grass every day, that's what I was willing to do. I had got to that point where I didn't care what I had to give up or what I had to do. And eventually, I did a like 14-day colon cleanse, completely cleared up my bowel issues. I
Was
did a
it
heavy
a
metal
natural colon
detox.
cleanse, Tequila?
I'm sorry,
Was
say
it a
that.
natural? Was it a natural colon cleanse, or did you
Yes,
go to like a?
it was a magnesium based colon cleansing product which hydrates the intestines and helps to flush them out by flooding water into the intestines. And within days I could just feel the relief, and it was just like, oh my god, I can go to the bathroom on my own. I don't need a laxative. What?
Right.
Like I was winning at that point. And then I did make a drastic change with my diet. At the time I wasn't really aware of being plant-based or any of those things. I was still having the standard American diet, but what I did do was I completely gave up dairy. I gave up all starches, so no bread, no pasta, no rice, no potatoes, none of that. And I only literally ate like baked or steamed chicken, green vegetables, herbal tea with no sugar or anything, and water. That was my diet for like 2 months. I
Mm.
went from a size 7 to a size 0 in 2 months.
Wow.
On
Wow.
top of the colon cleanse, the heavy metal detox, I was taking all type of parasitic cleanses and stuff. Like I was trying everything in the book, honey. I was like, something gonna work. I'm gonna hit it with everything, let the kitchen sink, and hopefully something helps me. And it did. And that was my aha moment. That's what woke me up and helped me to realize, like, oh my God, your food really makes a huge impact on your overall health and wellness. And it was just like from that moment forward, I was just addicted. I wanted to know everything that you could possibly know about food, health, wellness, nutrition, and it just started. And then here I am now, I cultivated my own brand to help other people who might be struggling with that to kind of learn how to taper themselves away from challenging foods like that and then learn how to take back their health by implementing changes.
Right. And I was just introduced to this book back here that's called Eat Right for Your Blood Type.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to you guys a little bit about my iron issue, right? And so I had cut out red meat from my diet because my grandmother never ate red meat, and I was having problems digesting. Like I just felt like my body was just like holding up everything. And so I cut out red meat. That was about 2 years prior to the iron issue. Well, when I went in for the iron issue, no one bothered to say, well, hey, have you changed your diet any? And then I go and research it, and I find that iron is like you get a majority from your red meat and your green vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
But primarily, your steaks and, that kind of stuff is where the iron is the richer iron. And I'm like, why did no one say like, hey, did you change your diet? Let's try to work on that. Instead of just pumping me with iron for months on end, and then, not really seeing a change in my hemoglobin. My hemoglobin was 5.5. And they
Wow.
said if it had got down to 5, I would have needed a blood transfusion.
Yeah,
So,
I
Go ahead.
think with traditional doctors, sometimes there's a disconnect with nutrition because a lot of them aren't required to spend a lot of in-depth studies on it. So a lot of them are just unaware. And then we also have to realize that some of them have a job to do and they have prescriptions they have to push in order to pay those bills. So sometimes it's not going to be as productive for them to say, well, just change what you're eating. At least that's been my perspective. Latoya, I want to hear your perspective.
Right.
Jump in. You're
I
the
want to hear
doctor. Let's talk about
my
it.
perspective too.
I definitely think at the hemoglobin that you were at, if you were my patient, I definitely would have done a iron infusion at that moment. But I think you're correct that they should have asked about your diet. One of the things, Akila, you're also correct. In med school, I probably actually only had about 4 lectures on nutrition. And so that is something that the medical community knows that we need to improve on. But there is so much to learn in medical school that it is not a big focus. And we do we're starting to shift towards, making sure lifestyle changes and trying to make sure that diet, and that we, when I see patients, because iron pills is something that's really hard to take. It makes you constipated. It makes people stool black or green, which they don't like. And so really talking to them about a partnership. It should be a partnership and a conversation, where if they're committed to really treating this with diet, I'm committed to that too. Because it doesn't help if I prescribe something and they don't take it. And so I really try to emphasize with my patients it's not going to happen every time that you're going to agree with me, but for the most part, I want you to feel comfortable about the plan walking out as well.
Right,
Oh,
right.
I love
Have
that
you
you said
experienced anything,
partnership.
Latoya, in terms of health where you've had to change your diet to,
Yeah, I feel like
resolve?
I am always kind of involved, um, evolving my diet. Weight has been something that I have struggled with my entire life. I found that like when I'm cutting out big food groups or saying, not going to do sugar or not going to do one thing or other, that's when my weight will yo-yo. But just really, not only being careful about what I'm eating, but I'm trying to learn how to be more mindful with it. And so that just not like the stress eating or, oh, I'm watching TV. This is like my one break of the day and eating. So just trying to incorporate, the healthy foods and, but also being very mindful about what I'm eating as well. And so, not a specific medical condition, just trying to, help improve my weight, because I joke with patients all the time where I'm like, I need to practice what I preach. I don't want people saying, well, my doctor is clearly eating fast food. And so I'm not going to listen to what she's saying. And so definitely I'm very open with my patients that I'm currently on a health journey, just like everybody else, and trying to not necessarily get the big quick losses, but really change kind of that lifestyle that I've had for a long time with like the stress and with training and things like that, but trying to do things that are sustainable.
I
Yes,
love that. I love that for
absolutely.
you.
Thank
I
you.
think it's important for people to know that even though we may be professionals, are, we may have a level of understanding in a field, that we're still human as well, and that we're on a journey as well. And that's why I always tell, people who I work with as well, it's like, just because I may have made it here doesn't mean that I'm at my end destination. Like, I'm still trialing and erroring a lot of stuff with myself and improving. So I love that you're transparent with them and you're sharing that with them, because it makes it more attainable for them too, when they see, okay, we're all growing. It's not just something that I have to do. We're all doing it. So I love that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sheila, while you're at it, can you give some of the resources that you found were helpful once came through that 2 months and you're like, okay, I'm going to do something holistic to try to solve whatever the, issue or ailment might be. Are there resources that you use that you might recommend? And the same question for you, Dr. Smith, if you've ever, tried to help someone on that journey to say, if they come to you and they say, you know what, I really like to try the holistic approach, what resources do you guys give?
So I would say, first and foremost, just looking at different blogs, and YouTube was a huge resource for me, not necessarily for medical advice, but I think it was very pivotal for me to see that I wasn't the only person dealing with the things that I was dealing with, because some of my issues were very personal. And as a woman, it's an embarrassing type of thing to share with someone, that you have this angry vagina syndrome going on, and you don't want to tell everybody that business. So it was first very relieving for me to kind of just see other women sharing their story openly, saying that I'm dealing with this. And I was like reading all these comments from other women like, oh my God, me too, me too, me too. So that was a resource that I felt like was very helpful for me, because it made me feel like I wasn't alone.
Right.
I also think leaning on people that you might have in your family or your friend circle, or in your community, who are health nuts. Like, we all have somebody around us who is into exercise, who's into eating healthy, or they just do things a little bit alternatively than most of us. And sometimes when we're not on that level, we kind of look at them and write them off as crazy, or they're just doing their thing. But I think it's important for us to start leaning on them when we start having challenges, versus being so closed off to it. Because I think in the Black community, health in general is a topic that is not really talked about at all. And I can speak from my own personal experience of being the only person in my immediate family that is a health nut and who's completely plant-based. Sometimes they all look at me like, here she go, with this and this and that. But they're struggling with health issues. And none of
Right.
them ever say, you might be right on some things, like it's always a fight. So I feel like opening up yourself and really leaning on some of the people that are around you is another great resource. It doesn't cost you a lot of money, before you start, investing in a bunch of stuff that you don't know is going to help you or not, because a lot of times we're just throwing stuff at it and guessing. And then last but not least, I do want to say lean on your doctors. I think it's important to at least go and get some testing done, have them, do some checkups and try to figure out what's going on with you, because sometimes we'll self-diagnose ourselves, getting on Google. Next thing you know, we got cancer and colitis, and we don't even know yet, but all the symptoms line up. So we're kind of creating this condition in our mind. And I wholeheartedly believe that the mind and body are one. So what you believe, it'll start to manifest. So I think it's
That's what we
important.
say. Heal your body. If you have
Yes.
not heard of that book, it's so right on. Everything starts in your mind. If you ever come across an ailment, you can look in that Louise Hay book and look at the ailment, and I bet you're going through whatever it is, like
Let me
mentally.
show you something real quick. Bam, I got that book too. I
See,
got that book
this
too.
the old school one from about like 1985 or something, when it first came out.
Okay, so I kind of like borrowed this book and never gave it back to the person who gave it to me, but she was cool with it. She was cool with it. But I love that book, and it really kind of helps you connect the dots, because I always tell people when I start working with them, let's talk about what's going on mentally. What are you dealing with emotionally? Because that is manifesting physically. So we got to address all of it. So let's add in, maybe you might need some therapy too. You might need to talk to somebody, and you need to start doing some emotional healing. You might need to start purging some things that you've been holding on to. So I feel like all of those are resources.
Yes. And I was watching this thing Tabitha Brown was talking about, and I've never heard it referenced in this way. But she said that prior to her going vegan, she said that she was feeling anxious, and she was always worried, and she just felt like she was constantly, like, I had a lot of tension. And she said, when you think about it, when an animal is slaughtered, they're anxious, they're scared, they are experiencing tension to a level they've never experienced it before. But
Yeah.
that's what you're putting into your body after it's slaughtered. And
Yep.
so
That's
why
a
wouldn't
really
you
example.
showcase those same symptoms that what you're eating had experienced in their final days? I
Yep.
never heard of it like that, but that makes total sense to me.
You are what you eat. We hear people say it all the time, but literally, you are what you eat. And when animals are in those fight or flight states, there is a cocktail of different hormones and chemicals that are being released into their flesh. And they don't just dissipate because the animal was killed. They're still sitting there lingering in the flesh. So you consume them and that becomes a part of your biology. So I agree with that. And that's why, I had made a decision that I wanted to remove those things from my diet. But, I don't knock people who still choose to consume animal-based products. I'm just here to help people learn how can we incorporate more plant-based things into the diet. And if you want to go the whole route and be completely plant-based / vegan, then I'm here to support that as well. But that's the myth that a lot of people think, that when they have to go plant-based, that means they have to eliminate everything. And it's like, look, I can work with you with whatever that goal is. So if you just want to have a couple meatless Mondays, or if you want this to be an entire lifestyle shift, we can talk about what that looks like. So
Right.
yeah, I like that.
Right. Anything you want to add, Dr. Smith, to that piece?
I
Resources
just
for
want
listeners?
to reiterate that if you do want to address something in a holistic manner, I think that's great. But continue to go to your doctor and kind of do it parallel. I think how I have patients that approach me. I like sports, so I'm always using the metaphor. They're the team captain, and I'm fine if there's other people on our team. But just keep everybody aware. I think traditionally in this country, we've been very much like Western medicine, but we are starting to do research and show that we do need to incorporate these other things into our practice. There are a lot of hospital systems that you can get in offices that you can get acupuncture now. I would say I'm always for patients, if they want to do supplements. One of the things that we talk about is, tell your doctors,
Right.
because I need to look up and make sure it does not interact with a medication that is potentially life-threatening if it's not working. So for example, Coumadin or warfarin is a blood thinner, and it actually interacts with a lot of different foods. But also a lot of different supplements. And so I don't want patients to feel like they need to hide supplements from their doctor. I think we can all be a team. I've had patients that have done holistic medicine for very serious conditions like cancer, and it's like, that's great. I want them to be on the part of the team, but I also want you to come see me and the oncologist as well.
Right.
Because if something does change or we need to change plans and pivot, like, you already have these other members on your team. At the end of the day, it's your body. You're the captain, and we want to empower you. But I think we're going to continue to see that holistic medication and the integration in our healthcare system continue to grow. And I do think that's a good thing.
Dr. Smith, that takes us to our last question, really around how do you advocate for your own health care? Because I think, especially as people of color, a lot of times we are kind of poo-pooed, like, oh, she's fine. All you need to do is this. Like, I remember when, after I had COVID the first time, I was having issues where I would get heartburn every time I would have a glass of wine or an alcoholic beverage. And I'm like, God, you trying to tell me I got to stop drinking? And I was like, I just don't know that I'm ready.
Yes.
And I literally started, I went to the upper endoscopy to get an upper endoscopy, right? And the doctor was just kind of like, basically trying to tell me I was tripping. Like, you need to just chill out. You're fine. We can go ahead and do the upper endoscopy if you want. And so I was signed up for the upper endoscopy, but then they came back and said it was going to be $1,000. So I was like, I'm not paying $1,000 for y'all to look up and through my throat. If that's the only thing, I need to just maybe stop drinking, right? So then I was talking to one of my cousins who had the same issue after COVID, and he started eating oatmeal. So for 2 weeks, his doctor told him, try oatmeal for 2 weeks to coat your stomach and start getting your stomach back healthy so that acid level could go back down.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I started eating oatmeal. And then when I found out about this book about how to eat for your blood type, I'm B positive. And it specifically says in there, like, try oatmeal. So I'm like, I need to go back to my oatmeal. So once I went back to the oatmeal, I didn't get the heartburn anymore, and I was able to have an alcoholic beverage. But it's like, how do you advocate to make the doctor tell you the things that are going to help you, even if it means like pulling from here to get you to a healthy state?
I think first and foremost, I'm glad you brought up this question, because there definitely is still bias and racism in the healthcare system. I think we are slowly trying to make strides of improvement, but I think the first thing is being aware of it. And I think any doctor who says that they don't have bias are not reflecting. But I think the most important thing for first advocating for yourself is actually having a primary care doctor and building that relationship so that you have that relationship with the doctor before something big does come up. Because they're going to start to know your values. They're going to start to know you as a person. Because as doctors, that is important. As we mentioned before, it's important for me to know what stress you have. It affects your health if you cannot pay your rent or somebody passed away in your family. And so building that long-term care relationship with a primary care doctor that can advocate on your behalf. You're not always going to necessarily agree with your doctor, but you're going to need that person to advocate for you. And unfortunately, kind of what sounds like in your system, there's a lot of times when doctors are saying, we have to do this and this before we can order this test. Some of that is insurance based. We've seen with other patients that something might not get covered, whether it's your age or because we haven't done X, Y, and Z. But I think the biggest thing is always like write down questions for your doctor before you come. And also know that if you don't feel comfortable, like if you're sensing bias or you don't feel like your doctor is at least listening to you and listening to why you want this thing, then it may be time to find a new doctor. Do not feel like you will get penalized if you change doctors. Having a doctor is about the fit. And so I think just really with the team analogy again, primary care doctors a lot of times feel like they're the quarterback of the team in terms of the specialist. So if you have a good primary care doctor that knows you, knows what's going on in that, like, hey, my patient, she knows her body. I'm seeing these changes too. I can go and talk to the specialist on your behalf. And so I think getting that primary care doctor is going to be important. But I also recognize because both people and families, everybody has stories, and historically there has been so much distrust in the healthcare system. It can be hard to start that relationship. But I think talking to family members about, hey, do you like your primary care doctor? Do you trust them? You'll start to get real answers about, yeah, I might not agree that Dr. Smith said I can't get this test, but I'm okay because I trust her guidance, and she told me her reasoning why this is not appropriate. So you never want your doctor to do something that's like medically inappropriate or contraindicated, but they should tell you and explain why. Because at the end of the day, it's your health, and you're the captain, and so you need to understand what's going on.
Absolutely. Well, in our last minute, are you taking new patients, Dr. Smith?
Yeah, I was about to say, like, it sounds like we all just need Dr. Toyia Smith at this point.
Soon, not right now. In about 6 more months, I'll be taking new patients again. Right now, I actually wanted to do some more training for like taking care of older adults. So that's what I'm doing right now.
All right. Well, if you would like to get in contact with Dr. Smith, send us a message. We'll get the message to her if there's something in particular you'd like to ask. And in our last minute, Akilah, would you give us contact information if anyone likes to go to the plant-based way or is looking for a nutritionist to just make better decisions?
Yes, if you guys would like to connect with me, you can visit me on my social media platforms. I have TikTok, I have Facebook, and I have Instagram. They're all plant-based Akilah, just as you see it on the screen. And then my website is awakeningakilah.com. So you can go and you can kind of check out, I have cookbooks there, natural based products and herbs, different things that you can use to kind of help you along your journey. And in the next couple of months, I'm going to have some amazing things coming down the pipeline. So you definitely want to make sure that you stay connected with me. You can join my mailing list also from my website as well, so that you can get those updates.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys joining tonight. This has been a very fruitful conversation. I'm sure we'll get all kind of comments, so I'll send them your way, Dr. Smith. All right. Thanks, ladies.
Let's go ahead and
Bye, guys. Oh, let's go ahead and thank the sponsors real quick.
Today's episode of The Plug is sponsored by the following companies. At the platinum level, we have FC Cincinnati. The FC Cincinnati season kicks off on Saturday, February 25th, and their team is growing. Stop by the job fair at TQL Stadium on Saturday, January 28th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. or visit tqlstadium.com/jobs to learn more about opportunities today. And also at the platinum level, CET, a PBS station. CET is your home for the arts in Greater Cincinnati. At the gold level, we have Spiritual Genius. Spiritual Genius is a lifestyle brand created to highlight spiritual experiences and uplift people in the process. Check out their apparel and travel wear at spiritualgeniusbrand.com. At the silver level, we have Allstop Carriers and Moving. They pick up, drop off, and move anything for a reasonable and affordable price. Call them for your next move at 513-800-2992. And last but certainly not least, at the bronze level, Luxurious Styles, home of the Crochet Queen. You pick the hairstyle and it's achieved. Conveniently located off of 275 in Springdale Town Center. Relax during your visit with complimentary wine and enjoy free Wi-Fi. Call 513-599-1705 to book your experience. The Plug thanks all of our sponsors for helping us keep you connected.